Okay, so I believe that those on YouTube can hear me very well now. So today we're going to do something very interesting. We're going to solve some key problems that Zoho Creator has that we are trying to work with in building apps. Of course, there's no perfect scenario and there are edge cases, and we want to try to solve these edge. Okay, so I'm just going to try to. Okay, so let me get this out. So what I'm trying to do is to ensure that excellent. So let me open the Zoho One account we're using. Then I'm sharing my screen right away. Sorry for the delay. So let's solve 3 problems using Zoho Flow. Today is our last day on Zoho Flow, and precisely our last day of focusing on direct use of Zoho Deluge across these 2 amazing apps, Zoho Creator and Zoho Flow. And it's been a great time with you all in this session. Let me just try to check what is next so that I can advise you accordingly how to prepare. Okay, so we just handled Zoho Flow. It's ending, today. We're not having any session until the month of August. And we're going to start the month of August, to spend the month of August in my favorite Zoho API frameworks. So Zoho API frameworks is the subject we'll be talking about. So if you've been wondering how to integrate using raw code, not using Zoho Flow like this, that month is for you. So stay tuned in August, Zoho API frameworks. Then in September, we're going to be talking more on business things that have to do with business. So just stay tuned and have fun as we go on this beautiful ride through automation and integrations. I told you I was going to tell you something interesting at the end of this program today. So let me just get into what the meat of the session today is about. So today we are going to talk about edge cases. But the edge cases we're talking about today are of two types. We first of all have the edge case of dates and time. Okay? So if you are going to be working with time zones, we have such edge cases. Now, I'm not going to be writing code from scratch. I'm going to be taking some of my functions from Zoho Creator, and I'm going to be taking them to Zoho Flow so that you can enjoy the interoperability. Okay? So we have, let's do date and time first. Then we are going to have the currency management second. So let me take the first one, which is the date and time. Let me see. So we're going to get a time zone function into Zoho Flow. The same way we create functions in Zoho Creator, we're going to create in Zoho Flow. So about this time, we're going to go straight to our settings, custom functions, and then we'll create a custom function. Wait, let me keep. Don't look. Okay, it's not here. Okay, great. So I just want to make sure you will not see it. Okay, good. All right. So let me go back there, so you don't get to see it by accident. What are the surprise that I have for you? Okay, so now let's go to create a custom function. I'm just going to put a blah blah here and do create. So I will then paste my time zone function. So this is a function that, okay, hang on. Okay, so this, we can call it a string then. So time type is not available in Zoho Flow. Take note of that. Okay, great. So let's try to simulate something here. You have current time, you have, now the problem with this here is that we have to oh boy. Let me check something. I'm not sure what's okay. So we have to be intuitive about our time management. So Zoho Flow is not like Zoho Creator where your time format is respected. So let me try something. Let's do 17 May 2025, 10:15. And let's put a time zone of 01. This is how it works. And then the range is like this. So this is +1, yeah? But let's put the time zone of +2. Let me copy this out time. See if it works. So this is the input. This is the output, 9:15. This is 10:15. So what it means is that what this really does is it tells us that, look, for this time at this time zone, what is our current time? Okay, what is our current time? So it now tells you that our current time That is in Nigeria now, because Nigeria is +1. Our current time in Nigeria is 9:15 based on this, based on the information that we have. So 17th May 2025, 9:15. All the way from 17th May 2025, 10:15. Because there's a differential of 1. Nigerian time zone is 01:00, as we know. But because we provided 2, it then adds a differential of 1. So what it means is Nigerian time is going to be 9:15 when this +2 time is going to be 10:15. Again, if we come here and we put the time zone and we say, okay, let's do 2:00 minus. So that's -2, yes? So what it's going to do is going to add more time. And it's going to add exactly 3 hours, because it's going to go from 1 to 0 to -1 to -2. So if we check this out now, we go to the output, you see now that it has added 3 hours to 10 o'clock. So from 10:15, the time is 13:15. So what it means is that Nigeria will be 13:15, that is 1:15 p.m., when a -2 is 10:15 a.m. So now, let's now do something interesting. We've been saying Nigeria, 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 isn't it? So the reason is because we have this number here, 1, 1, 1. This case, and this case. So what we're really going to do here is, we're not going to do something new. We're going to change this time zone formula and say, look, let's do home time zone or home zone and time zone. Okay. Let me see if I can. Okay, I'm going to change the field now. So let's say let's call this new time zone. Sorry. Yeah, new time zone. Okay, and call this new time zone. Then let's call this home time zone. So now we have a more interesting function. So what we are going to do is to say this is a date, and our home time zone is, okay, no. We also need to have home range. Okay. We need home range. So range goes there. So let's call this new range. And then we define range now. The range is the plus and minus, yes? So ideally it is what it is. So we have new range. Okay. Now there's something we need to understand here. Okay, which is the fact that we just did this the way we did it doesn't mean that it is going to be like this when we start adding more fields. Things are going to change, and I'll tell you what will change. So if we say string home range, that means that it's going to check whether it's plus or minus that should be used. Okay? So what we're now going to do here is very simple. We will say get home hours In fact, we need to also call this new hours, new minutes. Call this new hours, new hours. This new minutes. This new minutes. Okay. So now that we've changed this to new minutes, we'll also make this new hours, new minutes here. Now we now need to add a new set of fields and say get home hours 0, get home minutes 0. Okay. So I think that so we've already done new time, new range. This is also get new minutes. Okay. So ideally, what we're supposed to do here now is we're supposed to try to get values from home hours and home minutes. So instead of typing again, I'm just going to paste the same thing, but I'm going to change this to home hours, home minutes, and this to home time zone here. And then I'm going to have, I'm going to have this like this. So we have home hour, home minutes. All right. So now we're going to do something interesting. And what we're going to do is that we're not going to use this thing to add time to time zone. We're going to use it to add time information. So we're going to say that if home range is equal to plus, okay, then get home hours, or let's even say if let's see, if home range is equal to plus, so what we are going to do, we are going to put some insurance on the content that we get from these fields. In order to make sure that there's no negative number, we're going to do some find and replace. So before we change this to number, we would replace all of something like this, so that there is no chance of a negative number. We are also going to replace decimal too, or let's say we're going to round up. Okay. So we'll round up everything to 0. Round up to 0. Now, the reason we're doing some of this edge check is so that it's not going to be possible to have a decimal situation at all. So just in case somebody puts a decimal there, it's not going to work in any of these cases. So now let's continue to get home hours and say for get home hours, let's so get home hours is now going to, let's now use negative home range. Get home hours will now be get home hours times -1. Okay, so that's the negative home range. All right. Now, we're going to do something very interesting. Okay? And what we're going to do is we will say if get home hours equals is greater than 0, that's when we do this. Okay? But if it's not greater than 0, okay, that means get home hours is 0. So we will say that get home hours equals 0. Now, in this case, because we're talking about negative, if get home hours is -1, we don't do anything to get home minutes. But if get home hours is 0, we do something to get home minutes because we want a situation where subtraction really happens. In fact, in both cases, we do something to get home minutes. It's just that why we do something to get home minutes in both cases, really, that I'm just noticing here is that ideally it is supposed to do subtraction across board. Okay, if there's something with the get home minutes. So we're going to now put get home hours here. And we'll change this to get home hours. We'll change this to get home hours. Now for get home minutes, it's also that simple too. Okay. For get home minutes, there is really this is only going to be if get home hours is more than, because if get home hours is greater than 0, this is the only scenario where this will happen. Otherwise, we would have that the new time in this case is equal to the current time, just like that. Now let's move over to get home minutes. Now we have not featured anything in get home minutes, so we will do the plus and the minus here. Okay, if get home minutes has something. So we will say plus get home minutes and then minus get home minutes. Okay. Now, if get home minutes is nothing, okay, that means we don't have to either add or remove anything in get home minutes. Okay. So I think that this will solve this problem. So get home minutes will not need to change anything. Okay, so we have a bit of an error in line 13, and I think that is a yep. So we didn't put the bracket here. Okay, 25 is the same problem. We inherited it. Line 12. Okay, for replace, we really have to make it have a nothing value here, because we're trying to replace stuff from the string. Okay. It says 12. I'm not sure what. Let me see. I think it's okay. Okay. It's a type of replace. We don't need the ignore case, so we can go on. Now, home time zone, they said it's not defined. Oh, because of spelling issue. So Get hours is not defined at 26. And okay, there you go. So we have get new hours. Okay. And get new minutes. Okay. So don't you just love working with Zoho Flow? It gives you the error at the point where there is a problem. It doesn't behave like Zoho Creator. Though Zoho Creator is cool, but Zoho Flow, because it's an external system, it would want you to always be correct. So let's go ahead now and put our time. So today's date is 30th of July, 2025. And the time is 12:25. Okay? Let's put the other 0 just to have fun. Copy this now. Now the home time zone is 0100. Home range is plus. But the new time zone is 0200. And the new range is plus. So what is expected is that when the time is 12:25 in Nigeria, the time is going to be 11:25 in this other place with a +2 time zone. So let's see the output. Good. So it's 11:25 in the other place with a +2 time zone. So let's go again and say our time zone is 0100. Our home range is plus. And let's say we have the new time zone 0200. And then the new range. Now, even if we do this 200 or we do this, it's still going to work. So this is how interesting it gets. So if you are getting your values from a date and time calculation in minutes and all of that, you can use that and throw it into this function and get time zone differentials here and there. And we're going to have fun with something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead now. So let's go minus. So for minus, we're expecting things to increase. But let's do something interesting here. Let's do -2, -215. Okay, -215. So what's going to happen is 1 hour, 15 minutes will be added to this. So we're expecting this to take us to this place for the time to be 1:40 p.m. So if we go to the output, okay, no, sorry, 340. 340. And why it's 340 is because of the -2. You see, that's why a computer is always better than a human being when it comes to mathematics. Why? So because we have 1 here, so we have to go -1 into 0. Then we have to go -2 into -2. So that's -3. For -3, we add 3 to 12 and it gives us 15. Okay. Then we have in this case of the 15, we still go another -15 again because of the minute count. So this -15 gives us the ability to go ahead and still add 15 again. So instead of 1525, we'll have 1540. So let's try one more example before we do something practical. Let's say our time zone is 1:30. Okay. Our home range is plus. And then we now want to do time zone of 2:45. And it's minus. So what's going to be the scenario? The scenario is this. It means that it is 12:25 at 1:30. In fact, let me even just be realistic with what 1:30 is. Now it's 12:29. So 1:30 is really going to be basically 12:59. Okay? So let's run this and now see what it did. So in this case, we had 12:59 at 1:30 time zone plus, and we're going minus 2:45. So that's minus 3, like you know, because minus 1 and then minus 2. That takes us to minus 3. Okay. Then we now have minus 45. Now, one of the things that you might want to trick yourself about is to think that this 30 is going to make an interesting difference, but it really wouldn't. So what really will happen here is that it's going to, instead of counting from 1, it's going to count from 1:30. Okay? Which is interesting because, okay, there's a problem here, and we're going to solve that problem. Two kinds of problems. The first problem is to make sure that the minutes count don't go beyond 60. And the second problem is to try to identify when another hour should be added. So now, or when things should split. So here's what we're going to do. This is going to be wrong. This is giving us 17:14, and it's particularly wrong. It's wrong because if we start from 1:30 and we're moving backwards, then we need to move in a way that starting from 1:30, we move 2 hours back. But if we move 45 minutes back, we are going to have to add more. So it means that we will add more to the hour count and put a difference. So that did not happen in this case because what happened here was what? 17. And for 17, you have 12 plus, let's see. Is this what I think happened? I think it works. We don't really have to hack it. 17, 14. I think it worked. So it took 2 hours backwards from the time and 45 minutes. Yes, it worked. So 2 hours, or let's say 3 hours back, it added 3 to 12, making 15. Okay? And trying to understand. 15. Then added 45. What o'clock will be 1 plus 3. 1 plus 4 is oh, it's correct though. Yes, very correct. So if you add 3 and 1 more hour, 4 will be 16. Then 16 plus 15, 16:59 plus 15 is 17:14. So this works. Wow, this works. I didn't even expect it to work out. So it's beautiful. It works. So we can toggle time zones easily. So we have a beautiful time zone function. I'm happy to sell it to you. Thank you. And you're welcome. So I'm seeing a variable that I don't need here. I don't know why. I think that, yes, I don't need that. I don't like leaving variables that I don't need. It spoils the day. So we have set time by time zone has been placed. So let's create a flow that um, I think we need one more flow of time. Let's get the second flow for time. So there is I don't think it's in this app. Let's see, revert. Let me look for an app that has it. Okay, not this one. I need to find an application. 1 second. There's a different function that we were going to use today. So let's let me try and get this from another function. Sorry. Just a second. So I'm trying to open my code base that has this. Okay, we're here. So it should be in this one, schedule manager. So let me just try to pick it up. Not the one we built, but the. So now we are going to have another function. And this function, I'm going to talk like somebody you might know if you're Nigerian. This function, you will love it. That's not a copyright thing, so YouTube should not hit me. But I just had to say that. So let me, where's our screen sharing just now? Okay. No, not this one. I've copied it. Okay, yeah, here we go. Zoho flow. So we're going to create another function. I'm going to just put rubbish here, and then I'll paste the function that I copied. So the name of this function is revert time by time range. This function can have errors if you do not put values in the fields. Though I think we can just deal with those errors anyway. Let's see. Yeah, we can. We can, but I don't want to. I don't think I'm very interested in doing that one. I'm not interested for now. Let me. So you can make everything a string and do your type checks. Maybe turn this to time, turn this to integer, and you can use this as a string boolean. But I'm not interested in doing that today. What we have is something for using time difference to move time forward. So how does it work? You have your time value. Today is again still 30th of July, 2025. The time is 12:38. That's the current time. Okay. Now the difference between time frames that we want to use to push this time is 10,000. Then, do we want to get time or date? If we want to get time, we make this true. So it's going to push this date by a difference of 10,000. And Um, okay, I don't think 10,000 is sufficient. I think let's do 100,000 because this is milliseconds. This is milliseconds. Okay, good. So 100,000 is about 2 minutes. Okay. So it converted everything to minutes and it pushed the time by 2 minutes. So 1 minute is about 60,000. So let's do the mathematics. Let's go back to elementary school. When you do time difference, you are calculating milliseconds. Okay. So in terms of milliseconds, if you want to get the number of milliseconds for 1 minute, how many milliseconds are there? 1 second is 1,000 milliseconds. So 60 seconds is 60,000 milliseconds. So 120,000 milliseconds is 2 minutes. So 120,000 milliseconds divided by 60 seconds is going to give us what? It's going to give us 2,000 milliseconds. When we divide by 1,000, it's going to give us 2 minutes. Okay? So let's try that. Let's do 120,000 milliseconds and get time out of it. Okay? So that gives us exactly 2 minutes. All right. So let's also do something here. Let's then get minus 120,000 milliseconds. And what does that do for us? It reduces everything backward, yeah? So you are able to have 12, this is 12:38 now. So it's going to be 12:36. Okay. So now we are on 12:36. So what we're going to do is when there's a date time difference, we're going to be able to check the time zone. And you can use this function in your flows so that you can build internationally acceptable flows. So when you have these two functions to use for your flows, let me tell you how to use it. This is how to use it. Let's say you have an integration that brings a time. Say, for instance, the time you want to process something. Let's call it schedule time. Okay, the schedule time is the schedule time, let's say the schedule time is 1 p.m. Okay. And then you process the function now. So the current time is going to now be 12:43 because 12:43 is the current time and 1 p.m. is the scheduled time. You can schedule 2 p.m., you can schedule other times. Now, what we're going to do with this thing is, if you have somebody who is in a different time zone from yours, and you have an existing time zone, say you are in Nigeria, and somebody is using your application somewhere in India, the person will be able to set the time for a schedule in their time zone, but then you will be able to see clearly when your script will run it at your time, and when your script will tell the person it ran at their time. So we're going to build a flow to deal with this reality. So let's create a new flow now. This will be one of your most interesting sessions. You're going to bookmark this forever. So let's do schedule timer. Okay, let's just call it schedule timer. And schedule timer runs when. Maybe it runs every, let me see, runs on schedule. I'm just going to make it run once, but you can do whatever you want to do and let it run. But you can make it run regularly, maybe every day, every week, every month, stuff like that. Or you can make it run based on another trigger or another function or something. But let's just use once so that we can get things over it. So I'm going to try to run this at 12:50. If the time passes, we'll just set it again. So 12:50, apply. So let's see if we can hurry up and get this done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have the flow talk through functions. So the first thing is to bring up I want to get the input from a user. So I think I would, okay, let's call the schedule ones here. So I will put a time and run, That's what I'm going to do. Because I can't really build a scenario from somewhere else. That's going to take us too much time. Let's just put the time and run. So to put a time, we'll put time value here. So let's call this date time value. Okay. What date time value is this? This is the, okay, let's say the scheduled date and time. So scheduled date time, yeah? And the value has to be provided. So let's say the value of the scheduled date time is 1:30. Okay. So we're going to do 13:30 as the scheduled date time. So let's have scheduled date time. Okay. Let's also now have let's have scheduled date time zone. So we'll have the time zone here. And our time zone is +1, yeah? Let's call this our home time zone. Okay. And we say home time zone. Okay. Now let's have home range. Which is plus. So is home range. Then let's have our new time zone. So the new time zone now is 5:30. Okay. So this is new time zone. And then for variable, we have a new range, which is plus 5:30. That's plus. Okay, so this is a new range. Okay. So what we want to do here is to give an output. And in terms of giving an output, we are passing all these into a function so that it will work. Okay. We're going to change the schedule time, definitely. Let's move it a bit further to, let's make it 1 o'clock. Oh, sorry. I made a mistake. To make it 1 o'clock, you have to be careful to ensure that you click the apply button first. Yep, so now it's 1 o'clock. So we have the new date, the new range. Okay. Now, we now need to do some evaluations. Okay. And I want you to follow me as I do this evaluation. We're going to run different functions at different times. The first function that we're going to run is the function to get us the time that this schedule is. Okay? This scheduled date time. So we're going to get this scheduled date time by that function. So this is our scheduled date time by the function. We're setting the time zone. So let's call this actual scheduled date time. So we're going to pick scheduled date time, put it here. We're going to pick home time zone, put it here. We're going to pick home range, put it here. We're going to put new time zone, put it here. We're going to put new range and put it here. So what we have now is the actual scheduled dates and time. Okay? So now that we have this sorted out, okay, the next thing we need to do is to now find a time difference so that we can communicate this time based on the actual scheduled date and time. Okay, and to do that, we're going to need to use the second function. So this is if you want to do something like an attendance manager or clock in, clock out or something like that. This is what you would use. So let's now take the current date and time. And for us to deal with the current date and time, we need to do something very interesting. We just need to take this current date and time. Okay. Now we have a problem. We need to find the time difference. So we really cannot. Now this is where we have to be careful. Remember that when we put a number of milliseconds, it added time. But in the case of time zone, when we put plus, it's subtracted. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the new time zone to do our differentials. But to use the new time zone to do our differentials, we need to do something really smart. We need to use the value from the time zone to do our differentials. So we're going to disconnect this plug here. And then this time, this function is going to help us do one thing and one thing only. Date difference, no, time difference in milliseconds. Time difference in mil. So what it's now going to take is going to take a date. It's going to return, an integer. And it's going to take 2 parameters. Now, watch this carefully. The first parameter is going to take is the regular date. So we call this the regular date. Okay. Then the second parameter is going to take, is still a date, but it is the new date, or say the actual date. Okay. Let me call this the provided date, the actual date. Now let me explain what we're trying to do here. Or provided date time, actual date time. So let me tell you what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to find the difference between the scheduled dates and the actual date time. And you know, we find that difference when we do like a plus 5:30 now. What really happens is that because 5:30 is 4 hours 30 minutes ahead, then the system removes 4 hours 30 minutes from the present time, so that it reflects that the time in Nigeria is 4 hours 30 minutes before the time of somebody in 5:30 time zone. So plus one time zone comes before, that's the time at plus one comes before the time at 5:30. So that means you need to go 4 hours 30 minutes forward to get to the person at the time at 5:30. As we all know, for instance, 5:30 a.m. will lead us to 10 a.m. in India. Okay? So what we're going to do now is to use this difference to do that calculation. Now, let's say we use this 5:30 affair. What's going to happen is the time by 5:30, which is basically maybe the 10 a.m., will subtract the time that is by 5:30 a.m. And then it's going to lead us to a plus 4 hours 30 minutes in milliseconds. So what will then happen is we are now going to take the time we want to work with and move it forward by 4 hours 30 minutes so that we can give the application user the impression that they are in that time zone. So for instance, if somebody from India comes to Nigeria and the person still wants to do something with their colleagues in your application, you don't want any confusion. So you want them to be able to click and say, this was the time I did it, this was the time I did that, and yet it delivers the same time in India while the time in Nigeria is different. So now, let's now click create. And all we're going to do to return this is to say time in mil equals what? Provided date time minus actual date time. That's all. So if, for instance, we have to return time in mil. So if, for instance, now we now put our date and time. So let's say this is the time in Nigeria, 12:38. It's the time in Nigeria, okay? But the actual time, or let's say the time in India is from 12:38. The time is going to be, if you add 4 hours here, you're going to have 16. Okay. Then if you add 30 minutes, it's going to get you to 17:08. So 1700 hours 8 o'clock. So basically from this time, it's going to be 5 p.m. in India. Okay. Now our actual date time is 12:38. So what is the difference between these two times? We're going to find that difference, and it's going to be 4 hours 30 minutes. But we'll see it in milliseconds. If you want to use your calculator to confirm, you are free to make that confirmation. So you can come here and say, okay, let's take our calculator now. Take this number. The number is 162 and 0 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 16.2 million. I wish it was money. So now, if we divide this by 1,000, you get the number of seconds. Then if you divide this by 60, you get the number of minutes. Okay. Now, if we want to just use our head to say, okay, 60 minutes make 1 hour here. So 6 times 4 is what? 24. And if you remove 240 from 270, we have 30 minutes left. So you find out that 270, which was the outcome of your calculation, is the exact amount for 4 hours, 30 minutes. So our function is absolutely correct. So now that we have created this function, we will then use this function to simulate the time frame. So we're going to come and say time difference in milli. Okay, in mil. Now, what's the provided time? This is the provided time, the scheduled date and time. What's the actual time? This is the actual time, the one that has changed. Okay, so that tells us the value to work with. So, time difference in mil as milliseconds. Now we can revert time by time range. So now let's now get the current date and time, the time of clocking in, so that we would superimpose ourselves as if we are in India. Okay, so let's do our milli difference, which is time difference in milli. We're almost there. Then get date or time, or time or date. So we want to get time, so we'll just make this true. Ta-da! And our flow is ready. So can we test our flow? Absolutely yes. Okay, the time is passed. So let's just make it run at a different time. So let's make it run at 2 minutes past. Okay. So we're testing, and let's see what happened. Are you ready? So the schedule once we just ran it on our own. Though it's going to run again by 102, no doubt. So our schedule time by variable is 1:30, as you can see. 1:30. Our home time zone is Nigeria here. Okay. So this is the home range. This is a new time zone. This is the Indian time zone now. 5:30. The new range is plus 5:30. Then let's go to the actual date and time. After putting all these values, the actual date and time was 9 a.m. So that means that this thing is supposed to have happened at 9 a.m. for us to impose it to happen at this time in India. All right. So to impose it to happen at this time in India, it should have happened at 9 a.m. Okay. So this is 1:30, but because of the time differentials, we were shifted back by 4 hours, 30 minutes to 9 a.m. Now, this was the time difference now, the 16.2 million. And then we now want to revert the time by time range. And that gave us 4:30 a.m. So, this is strange. So I think this is supposed to, let me see what happened here. It's at this point that we're looking at. So this is the current date and time. The difference in time frame. I don't think this is revealing current date and time. I think it is the time. Um, Maybe instead of using current date and time, I would use yeah, it moved it up to around 4:30, but let me see. It's not getting the time value. So let me use my own current date and time. I think that this time value is not working with our time value. You have to make sure the time formats are the same. So let's do 13:05. Oh no, not 13:05. Let's go backwards by 4 hours 30 minutes. So 4 hours from 13:05 will be 9. Okay, this will be 8 from 8:35. So we are looking at 1:05 as the target time. Yeah. So we need to just modify this run time again so that it is in the future, and then we can test this. So if we run this test and we look at no, not the time difference, now the output of the range, you see that it is 13:05. So that means that it reported as 13:05 to be the current time. But then it then reported that